Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. My name is Axel Frelfall. I'm editor-at-large at Reuters, and I am honored to be your moderator for today's third GIES webinar entitled The Future of Jobs, organized by Dubai Islamic Economy Development Center and Dubai Chamber in strategic partnership with Refinitiv. Allow me a few very brief words to set the scene, which I must say has become more and more familiar over the past few years. Indeed, it's hard to find any event focused on the global economy without some mention of the fourth industrial revolution or some reference to a digital revolution of sorts and the disruptive technologies it brings in its wake. So this session will be a stock take, if you like, see how far things have progressed and how much further we have to go. For many years, the focus has been on the jobs at stake, a lost workforce replaced by one machine or another. That focus has shifted quickly to the opportunity and the millions of jobs that will be created. In fact, according to a recent report by the World Economic Forum, it was forecast that between, I think, 2018 and 2022, 133 million new jobs will be created, twice as many as those lost due to disruption. But the change is very real. And has come and continues to come very fast for workers, both skilled and unskilled, for businesses preparing their workforces for the future, and for governments. There is an urgent need, of course, to address the impact of new technology on labor markets through upgraded education policies aimed at raising education and skill across all age groups. Let me very, very quickly go over some basic housekeeping, then we'll get stuck in. For any technical issues, do click the chat bubble at the bottom of the screen, type your concern, and we'll get straight back to you. We want to encourage questions and hear your thoughts, so click on the three horizontal buttons next to the red X to activate the Q&A and poll windows on your screens. For any questions for the speaker, you can click on the Q&A and direct the questions to me, the presenter, and I will get to as many of those as possible. I've had plenty through already, so I'll try and get to those as well. And the recording of this session will be circulated to everyone attending after the webinar has ended. In just a moment, we will hear from the CEO of the Dubai Future Foundation. I'm extremely excited to host that conversation. But just before I get to that conversation, I'd like to introduce Mr. Abdullah Al-Awa, the CEO of Dubai Islamic Economy Development Center, for his welcoming remarks. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Axel. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and good afternoon. Thanks for joining us in the third Global Islamic Economy Summit virtual series. Of course, we at the Dubai Islamic Economy Development Center are excited about today's session. I wanted to thank His Excellency Khalfan Bulhol for making the time and joining us today to share his views on this important topic. Our partner is obviously Dubai Chamber and also Refinitiv for organizing this session. Of course, these series are part, hopefully, of an initiative to shape up the next Global Islamic Economy Summit that will take place on the 1st and 2nd of November in 2021, coinciding obviously with the Expo 2020. So we're all excited and hope to see you all there. I believe today's session is very important because, as mentioned by Axel before, the landscape is changing and the Islamic economy sectors are not immune, of course, to any change. Moreover, I think what we'd really like to hear from His Excellency today is his views on how that landscape will change in terms of jobs and what will it look like in maybe 20, 30 years from now, if not more. If anything, that we have witnessed over the last 4 and 5 months is that sometimes sudden changes come about that will have a long-term impact. So I think we all learned from that. So with that being said, I didn't want to extend my welcome remarks. Again, thank you everyone for joining. Back to you, Axel.
Thank you very much indeed. And it gives me great pleasure now to introduce our guest speaker. His Excellency Khalfan Bulhol is the CEO of the Dubai Future Foundation. He brings more than a decade of experience as a driving force in transforming businesses and organizations that contribute to Dubai's strategy of economic diversification. He is also a driving force behind Dubai's transformation into a leading city of the future and a hub for innovation and technology. He is also a fan of Arsenal Football Club, but I will not hold that against him. A very warm welcome to you, Your Excellency. Look, it would be remiss of me not to start with the current context, and we'll come back to that later on. But has the pandemic made your job harder, or are you, given the progress that Dubai has made on jobs, on embracing automation over the years, in a position to somehow take advantage of this current context?
First of all, I knew you were going to throw this in, Alex, and good to see you again. We've met a few days back, but I feel like I've known you for ages already, so lovely to see you again. And before I start, if you allow me to thank His Excellency Abdullah Al-Awar, Abu Khalid, thank you so much for the invitation and for all what you're doing at the Dubai Islamic Economy Development Center. And I'm honored to be here with all the extinguished guests with us here in this virtual gathering, which hopefully will also turn into more physical gatherings once. And I take this chance to also wish everyone to be safe in those challenging times as we go through them. If you allow me as well, Alex, maybe a 2-minute download on what the Dubai Future Foundation is for the audience. I'll try to be as fast as possible, as it is very much aligned to your question and the potential dialogue that we anticipate from this gathering. Obviously, the Dubai Future Foundation is roughly a 4-year-old entity, and it resembles the vision of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed in the future foresight and the risk-taking entrepreneurial mindset that the leadership have embedded in their DNA. The simple example is just to look at the country and how young the country is and how it was dependent on pearl diving to oil discovery, and now we're sitting in a session here with you, Alex, talking about the future skills and the tokenization and the blockchains and the AIs, all in a span of 50 years, which shows you the level of foresight and risk-taking the leadership has. And based on that, they came up with the idea of the Dubai Future Foundation, which was a thought of institutionalizing future foresight. In order for us to become a leading entity, we need to institutionalize this thinking and create a process for it, which was a very exciting journey for us, because that's the beauty of our leaders. They see an idea and they throw in the seed, and then it's all about us to define a structure for it. It wasn't easy because we couldn't really benchmark against a future foundation around the world. So we had to really come up with what that means. And we've driven the idea behind the quotes of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who says, who focuses on imagination, design, and execution, which is the basis of our entity. The entity focuses on 5 verticals. One, which is future foresight and research. You cannot claim to be a future research entity without having a robust future arm. And this is what Business Unit 1 does. It provides us with the feedback on where the future is heading, and predominantly our discussion will be based on that. Then we have another vertical that disseminates that content on a digital and a physical basis. And vertical number 3 is an educational platform, which is also related to future skills and reskilling efforts through the Dubai Future Academy. And our 4th vertical is ensuring that we build the most innovative and thriving innovation ecosystem in the country to ensure that the talent grows, because innovation goes hand in hand with talent and with future skills. So we want to make sure that all the infrastructure and the government policies are enablers and not bottlenecks for the growth of the 4th industrial revolution. So that's the 4th business unit. And the 5th business unit is the one right behind me. You might see it in the window, Alex, and maybe the audience can. It's the Museum of the Future. It's being built. It's a conversion of the actual story on where the story of the Dubai Future Foundation had started in a gathering which I'm sure we all know called the World Government Summit. It happens every February, and in that gathering there was a small display which was initially called the Museum of the Future, and that discussion evolved into the foundation of the Dubai Future Foundation, and eventually growing that small display in the summit into this, hopefully one of the most iconic buildings, which will present different challenges of the future and how we can achieve them. So that's in a nutshell what we do at the Dubai Future Foundation.
Okay.
And to your point, Alex, and sorry for taking just to put things into perspective, in SBU1 we focus a lot, and we've learned a lot in those coming times on what is the impact of COVID-19. And the biggest finding, obviously, that everyone talks about is the level of acceleration that it took us through to things that are inevitable. As you've mentioned, Alex, you've mentioned a very interesting stat of the 133 million jobs being created by the fourth industrial revolution. People look at it as there are obviously job losses and skills that are lost, but those create opportunities, which are the ones that you have mentioned. So those things, with the growth and the speed of innovation and technology and the involvement of artificial intelligence, robotics, 3D printing, all those opportunities in the industrial revolution have created the need for a shift in the skills and those opportunities. So that was happening inevitable, let alone the COVID-19 situation that we have, which has basically given the situation more steroids for us to really embrace it and take it forward. So it's challenging and fast times.
So what, apologies for interrupting, but what I'm getting from that then, rather than making your job harder, this has actually made things a little bit easier for you in the sense that it's hastened these changes that will be happening anyway. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we had to face them maybe in harsher environments, because we suddenly had to face them in lockdown situations, in 100% work from home situations, in 100% education from home situations, in situations that impacted entrepreneurs who were at growth and then suddenly stopped their revenues and they need to pivot and adapt. So the situation wasn't easy, Alex, and it was harsh because it was extreme. So it wasn't a gradual growth, but at the same time, the speed of learning and the robustness of the fortunate infrastructure that we have in the region had helped us really understand it in a much more accelerated way.
Okay, look, we've got a couple of polling questions, and one of them relates to this. So I just want to throw this out there right at the beginning, and we can carry on discussing as the audience answers that. And here it is. It's up on the screens. What will the long-term impact of COVID-19 on the future of jobs and workplace be? A, it will accelerate the automation of traditional job functions. Using tech, it'll not have a major impact, and the workplace will return to normal once the pandemic is past. It'll have a limited impact in certain sectors and functions only. You've got a few minutes to respond to that. And whilst you do, His Excellency and I will continue our discussion. I mean, it seems to be everyone I talk to right now, I do, whether they're in the energy sector, whether in the asset management sector, I do ask them, is this an opportunity now, this context? Should we be optimistic that we can take this and run, or do you worry that we revert to the place we were before? My sense, Your Excellency, is that you are an optimist.
I am, yes, and I think we're blessed to have leaders that are optimists. And if you look at and you read the statement that His Highness Sheikh Mohammed had come up with, you would see that he also mentioned that whoever thinks that things will go back to where they were is mistaken. So things will never go back to where they are. True, we've went through an extreme situation where we went maybe all the way to the other end, where we're 100%, like I said, work from home and education from home. But going back completely back to where we are will never be the case. Now, yes, I am optimistic because, like I said, the opportunities are there, and the government is enabling those opportunities through different ways and forms. And I'll give you an example. If a government wasn't agile enough to adapt to the demands of the fourth industrial revolution and what it needs to take to progress, then you will have a challenge. Yeah. But the adaptation of the government to accept the risk that comes with new ideas is an extreme positive for us, and that's why I'm very positive. And I'll give you one simple example, Alex, is we have an initiative within the Dubai Future Foundation that's called the Regulations Lab. and it's a lab that amends regulation in favor of innovation. What this means is that the government is telling us, you let us know what needs to be changed in order for us to be enablers for new ideas to thrive. Maybe people tend to think that for entrepreneurs and people with new ideas, financing is one of the challenging ideas. Yes, we agree that VC involvement into the innovation ecosystem is important. Yes, scalability and market growth for startups is important. But the government's listening and adapting is even 10 times more important.
Yeah.
You need governments that can respond, change regulations. If I'm going to come in with a 3D printing construction idea that has 10 bottlenecks to it, I'm not going to achieve anywhere. If I have a fintech blockchain solution that enables transactions and eliminates intermediaries, and I have a blockage for that, then there's no point of that idea. So my point is, I'm positive because the government is listening, is giving us different platforms to change in favor of growth.
Yeah. Okay. The results of the poll, by the way, no great surprise, I don't think. 71% picked A, that this will accelerate the automation of traditional job functions using technology. And no, as I said, no great surprises there. Back to your point, Your Excellency, though, in terms of enabling the government. I wonder, yes, it's a critical part, but of course we look at the businesses, we look at the employers, we look at individuals, we look at education institutions. Who needs to lead this process, do you think, ultimately?
So I think that's an excellent question. I think this is a collaborative effort, Alex. I think we've worked through something called the Dubai Future Councils, which looked at different priority future relevant topics and challenges. And through those councils, we have come up with different brains and ideas from all over the world to define what is the most important way forward when it comes to aligning with the fourth industrial revolution. The biggest challenge, to your point, Alex, is sometimes when you have something that's extremely interesting and agnostic, you might have overlapping efforts which can be time consuming and you spending even 10 times more the amount of capital that you need to create that regulation. If you look at the Dubai Future Foundation, we are very agnostic. We use the word future, so it can be simply anything. The future of mobility, the future of power, the future of transportation. But at the same time, you have the Road and Transportation Authority. You have DIWA. You have other entities that clearly are the subject matter experts in what they do and clearly have future plans for the specific sector that they have. So the most important idea, Alex, in my humble opinion, and this is what our leadership usually push us, is to create collaborative efforts that can create efficiencies in coming up with joint solutions that will become much more impactful rather than a government entity coming up with a plan, Dubai Future Foundation coming with another. So the simple answer is collaboration through councils that we can raise impactful decisions to leaders.
I guess the reason I mention it, I hosted a session in Davos last year, not this year, last year, about leadership in the digital age, and it focused more on business leaders rather than the policymakers. If there is a weak link anywhere, there's a problem, and if leaders of business are either unable or unwilling to step up and understand what it takes to lead in this digital age, then we've got a problem, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I cannot agree more, and I'll give you an example, Alex. And I'm unfortunately, I missed you in Davos 2 years ago, but hopefully we can catch up for coffee maybe when Davos is back and before that. What you have mentioned, I'll give you a perfect example. So one of the councils that I've mentioned in the Dubai Future Councils is the Council for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and it has in it 13 members, out of which. And I'm honored to be overseeing that specific council. Obviously, the other councils are chaired by different government leaders, whether it's being the Minister of AI, watching out for the AI Council, His Excellency Sultan bin Sulayem focusing on the Logistics Council. So different individuals leading different councils. In the council that I'm in, I have academia leaders. I have the private sector, so startups, so the likes of the founder of Kareem, Magnus is in there, Dr. Mansour Al-Awar from Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed University is also there. I have venture capitalists, the likes of Beko and WAMDA regional VCs. I have global VCs. And I have individuals and leaders from government entities that are related to SMEs and innovation-driven enterprises. And we discuss exactly what you've mentioned. If we do not create the right environment for someone like Magnus to grow his business here and discuss things and push recommendations forward and listen to every stakeholder involved, whether it's the VC and what they need, whether it's the academia and what programs they need from an education perspective, the entrepreneur, what challenges is he facing pre and post-COVID. So I think that dialogue has created such a great report that we have submitted to leadership, which comes in with a joint voice from the people on the ground all the way to policymakers. So I think the combined effort makes sense for progress.
You mentioned the entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurial spirit. This is clearly so important. And again, I hark back to a few years ago at the Global Islamic Economy Summit, doing a session on entrepreneurship and youth. Do you worry that entrepreneurs are suffering disproportionately as a result of this pandemic? That those who are seeking funding for ideas are now thinking or realizing this is not the time, I won't find the support right now, given what's going on around them?
I mean, the unfortunate part, Alex, is the entrepreneurs and the SMEs play the most impactful role in any country's economy, and the other unfortunate part is that they are the ones that are suffering the most at the moment. They are the ones with high burn rates, and at the same time, less capital to support that burn rate, especially in those challenging times when revenues in many of those SMEs has went to zero, basically. So the challenge is there, but at the same time, it's all about right now focusing on who are the priorities and how we can support the survival of the fittest in those challenging times. It's extremely important that we ensure that those ideas that will contribute a lot to SMEs and IDEs, and when I refer to IDEs, they are obviously a continuation of SMEs and innovation-driven enterprises, which will play a major role in economies going forward. We need to find mechanisms to ensure that those entities survive the stormy period. And those are entities such as the Mohammed bin Rashid Innovation Fund, which supports innovation. They've stepped up their game throughout those times to ensure that they support the ecosystem. Dubai SME does the same thing at the Dubai level. So we need to create and tailor-make support products to help those entrepreneurs survive those times.
And what does that support look like? Is it as simple as providing adequate funding for the time being to see them through? What sort of support are we talking about here?
It's a combination, Alex. It could be reduction of fees. It could also look at providing working space, rent considerations, financial commitment through debt instruments and equity instruments that are friendly for investors. So I think the investors should step, because what's happening at the moment is, even for investors, Alex, this is a very interesting time, because there are beautiful products and ideas out there that in normal time would have generated great returns and great valuation for investors. Right now, with the struggle that they have, it means that their valuations have went down, which makes them even more of an opportunity for investors to pick them up at potentially a less valuation, but at the same time, take them through those challenging times, and it becomes a win-win situation where they both survive. So I think it's a combination of many things: fees, whether it's rent, whether it's working space, and it's market scalability support through government procurement programs, and regulation amendments for their favor wherever they can grow and excel in a much faster way. And last but not least, financing mechanisms.
Your Excellency, there are questions coming through specifically, and I'll encourage everyone, by the way, to send your questions through, specifically on the Islamic economy, Islamic business. And the question is this: can the Islamic economy still have a role in creating jobs in this era, this post-COVID era, given the fact it is lagging in regards to adopting some of the new emerging technologies? How can you keep the Islamic economy relevant in this very testing context?
Yes, I mean that's also an excellent question. This testing context, Alex, as you see, it goes beyond economy. And if you look at the impact of COVID and what has happened around the whole world, you would see that being inclusive and being collaborative is key. Whether we look at different major economies around the world that have the strongest economies around the world, but have been impacted by other challenging issues, which means that we need to take into consideration every aspect, and we should be driven by collaboration globally. The Islamic economy is one of the largest economies in the world if we look at the whole Islamic community globally, which means that the demand for innovation in the Islamic economy is extremely important. So I think it's a matter, the simple answer for this is continuous dialogue, Alex. There has to be dialogue between not only regional stakeholders, but global stakeholders to ensure that innovation and growth and opportunities in Islamic-related financial products are part of the equation as we all grow together, including the use of technology in favor of those kind of products. So I think there has to be more dialogue, more presence, and more collaboration and acceptance globally.
Yeah. Okay. What jobs do we tell our children to stay away from now as they enter university and they finish their studies?
One is to be a fan of QPR, Alex. I think I'll tell them.
And that is a full-time job, trust me.
It is. It is. Yes. I think this is. It's simple. We just look at things that are relevant to how technology will invade those kind of businesses. So out of your head, if you think about it, obviously robotics will play a massive role. So what will happen to assembly lines? If you look at another sector, tourism. When is the last time have you spoken to an agent to book? Whereas now platforms are in your phone. So what will happen to those businesses? If you go to the corporate business, the HR departments and what they do when it comes to looking at quality control and service-oriented businesses, those things are all done by automation at the moment, which means that all the way from a sector-specific into an internal process, automation is taking over whether we like it or not. It's a game of reducing this skill gap and ensuring that we transform those into an opportunity, because whether we like it or not, those are efficiencies that we need to embrace. But like you've mentioned in the beginning, more than 133 million jobs will appear because of the opportunities risen, but they will be more focused on innovation, creativity, analytical skills, technological skills, and less related to assembly line, less related to process driven jobs.
Got it. Okay. And then with that in mind, then actually, just before I come to this question, very, very quickly, has there been a lot of scaremongering about technology and about the singularity, about just the extent to which our roles, everyone's roles might be taken over by machines? Do you think there's been a lot of scaremongering?
I mean, this is the story of our life at the Dubai Future Foundation, and we get this all the time. And I think the need for humans and the interaction of humans and collaboration and emotions and interactions and rubbing shoulder will always be there. And this has to happen, whether it's in a working environment or whether in universities or whether even in shopping malls. The human interaction will always be happen. Will shopping malls be the same in the future? The answer is no. Will work environments be the same in the future? The answer is absolutely no. Will education be the same? It will not be. But do we really need to interact as humans? Absolutely yes, because this reduces the fact that we don't physically interact and have those casual discussions at work with 100% work from home environment majorly drops down the creativity and innovation. Because I could have had a coffee with Alex between my meetings if I bump into him in Emirates Towers, and we could have come up with a great idea that ended up becoming something huge. This couldn't have happened in a 100% work from home environment. With education, the same thing. The way I can reach the most esteemed professor that is available in the US through technology and getting the content from him and understanding and the knowledge, right now it can happen in a snap, whereas in the past I had to travel and I had to be in a confined boundary of a school. Why do we need school that is confined within a boundary? It can be long life learning and continuation of understanding with the involvement of technology. Each one of us can have a profile, and we could just increase our profile and simply Uberize, if you will, education. But there's a big issue here, is that we need to ensure that the innovation and the interaction and the spaces available in universities, in offices, in shopping malls are always there for people to interact, because those things will change, but we need to interact and collaborate.
Okay. Look, I've got another poll here. I'm going to throw this one out, and then I do want to ask you a little bit more about education systems. The poll is this: who will play the most critical role in preparing the global workforce for the new jobs in the future? We've been discussing this already. Policymakers, educational institutions, corporates, and individuals. Of course, His Excellency was saying that this needs to be a collaborative effort. I don't think you can tick all four of those together, but let's get your responses on that. And whilst we're doing that, a couple of questions, Your Excellency, that have come through on the role of universities and educational institutions in particular. And I wonder how important you feel that is. I wonder what the new curriculums are that should be added to the existing degrees and the existing training programs that are going to set us up for the future.
Okay, so Alex, at the Dubai Future Foundation, we usually sometimes go wild with our thinking, because we need to do that and try to imagine things. So we have those imagination discussions on how things will eventually happen. And sometimes you feel they're moonshots, and sometimes you feel that they really come closer to being realistic. Our humble opinion at the Dubai Future Foundation that the long life learning mechanism is the future, to the extent that there wouldn't be a 4-year bachelor's degree, there wouldn't be a 2-year master's degree, and it will be, life is about understanding and learning and raising your profile of knowledge. Back in the days, in order for me to have a bachelor's degree, I had to go to a school, I had to be within a boundary of a school, and the school had to meet specific criteria, and the professor needed to assess me physically while I'm there and give me the degree as I progress through my education life. This, and now I'm subtracting the emotional and the collaboration angle, which will always be a challenge, but if you subtract that for now, and just look at the knowledge that you can gain right now with the use of technology from the same individual without even moving from your house, this can simply be achieved. So the way we see education is, if you club in AI with blockchain and other sorts of technology and the speed of internet, you will realize that you can link up, like I said, with the person giving you the knowledge. Imagine you have a digital profile, Alex, and it's known that you are an expert in X, Y, Z. I connect with you on a platform, and I'm interested in consuming the knowledge X that you have. I connect with you over some kind of a platform. We agree on a time, and you teach me that knowledge that you have. And my profile through that blockchain platform increases in that knowledge as you assess me electronically and how capable I become. And suddenly my profile starts to increase in that knowledge. So I think the future, and maybe I'm going a bit too far in the future now, but I think the future will be based on people spreading knowledge to each other in a much faster manner than the fact that we had to go to school and sit in a class and listen. Well, the biggest challenge in all this, Alex, is how do you create the other skill set in an individual, which is the charisma, the negotiation skills, the presentation skills, the other things that happen with interaction of people. So this needs to be defined. But I think, in a nutshell, the speed of education knowledge will accelerate big time with the use of technology and the use of the platforms and the secure platforms, blockchain, AI, etc. but then we need to find a solution for the human interaction and how we can also make that ideal within the growth of an individual and them building their knowledge base.
But that, I mean, that needs to happen pretty quickly, though, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Those soft skills, if you like.
Absolutely.
Again, I look at my kids and who are talking about exams and universities and careers, and I do struggle. I want them to be good communicators. I want them to be, their emotional intelligence to be spot on.
Yes.
Empathetic listeners, etc., etc. I almost feel that's more important these days.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll be very honest. When we assess candidates in the foundation, we focus on what you've mentioned more, and maybe something that's a bit off topic, but I think athleticism and being healthy and well-being is absolutely important. I'll tell you a story, Alex, and this has really happened. When I went to visit the high school that I studied in Dubai, Rashid School for Boys, which fortunately has graduated many leaders and many colleagues that we are all extremely proud of. And this was in the generations of let's say the 80s, and I graduated in 95. So that when I look at that generation, we kind of see a lot of leaders that we're proud of. What I think, I went to visit the school for a reunion, and we played a football match, Alex, against the teachers, and it was alumni versus teachers. And the alumni, I was assuming there will be alumni that are back in 95 and 94 that are my generation. Unfortunately, none of them turned up that day. So all the alumni that turned up were the 2012, 2013 alumni, which was good news for me, because I thought they were going to be more fit, younger alumni. The unfortunate thing is that we lost from the teachers, I think 7-1 that day, and teachers who were much older age-wise from us, but clearly they beat us. But it shows you that we need to really pay attention to other angles, which creates even personalities, and health and well-being is extremely important. And I think technology right now is potentially distracting us from that. And we need to really pay attention to that side of things.
Yeah,
as well.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, by the way, just very quickly, the result of that poll, pretty split, pretty even, I must say. Policymakers 25%, education 22%, businesses, corporates 27% came out on top, and individuals at 12%. So I guess no great surprises there. I personally would have thought that education would have had a little bit of a higher role. But with what you've just said in mind, Your Excellency, in terms of communication skills, in terms of physical ability, I wonder, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the specific role of the foundation, whether you act as an incubator, a technology incubator, when entrepreneurs approach, if you act as mentors, whether it's on the physical piece or the communications piece, or is it very much a think tank that puts its ideas out there and says,
yes,
make of that what you will?
So that's a great question, and I'll come to it, but I'm just glad that the poll came out this way, like you said, because obviously I didn't even answer it, because I get the polls, by the way. I answered the first one. I didn't do with this one because I really didn't know which one to pick, because I think it's a joint effort, and I'm glad that the answer was what we've seen on the screen. Going back to your question, Alex, like I said, our first business unit focuses on research and foresight on what are the global future challenges. The second business unit disseminates it. The focus of your question is more driven by the third and fourth business unit. The third business unit is the Dubai Future Academy. So it ensures that the people in the UAE and beyond are ready for the future through different courses and materials. And those courses can span from tech-related courses that are heavily driven by the fourth industrial revolution for people that are interested, all the way to soft skills and mindset entrepreneurial changes that are relevant to the fourth industrial revolution. And as a matter of fact, the latter is probably more important, because if you have that kind of mindset, then by default you'll grow into the other side of things. Whereas you can be really tech-driven, but if you don't have the collaborative, entrepreneurial, openness kind of way of thinking, you will not excel as fast, whereas if the formula is opposite. So that's one. The business unit 4, Alex, creates the most vibrant ecosystem, like I said, which means that, to your point about entrepreneurs, we have hundreds of entrepreneurs within our ecosystem in Emirates Towers, sitting in accelerators and incubators in different programs that we try to give a unique experience. And I'm talking, it's a regionally agnostic programs. Like 15% of the program is startups from the US. We have around 20% from Europe. And the idea is to support people with great minds and help them grow through linking them up with government entities. And I'll give you one example. We have a program called the Dubai Future Accelerators. Now, we all know what a typical accelerator does. A typical accelerator is a space where startups work together, and the owner of the space helps them grow through consultancy, through support, through access to finance, and then one or two out of the 10 succeed, and the owner of the accelerator gets a piece of the pie, and they grow together. That's a simple formula of a typical accelerator. What we do in our program is we're a zero equity program. We don't take any equity of the startups, and we list challenges that government entities are facing. And when I say government entities, for example, DEWA, the Electricity and Water Authority, can post a technology desalination challenge. The municipality can focus on technology related to 3D printed construction. The health authority focusing on diagnostics using AI for a specific disease. And based on that, we launch a challenge and we get startups to the program and we connect them with government entities to help them grow. What this creates, it creates revenue for them. It appreciates the value, it attracts VC to them. But what it needs is that it needs the mindset of a government that's willing to allocate procurement capital to startups, which is a big tick from the inclusivity kind of angle, because not many governments would do that and take a big gamble on that. Because, as you know, they'd say, why should I deal with startups if I can deal with corporates, which are safer? But the idea that you're creating hope through government entities with the push that we have with our leaders is one way of embracing entrepreneurs. And we've generated so many contracts from those startups, which clearly sends a message that the government of the UAE is listening to ideas not only from corporates, but also from startups, and creates hope for them through signing with government entities and raising their awareness and revenues to create a more vibrant innovation ecosystem. Yeah. And many other programs, Alex, but I don't want to take much of your time on this specific topic. I'm more than happy to share them later.
No, yeah, I appreciate that. A couple of other things I want to go over. I've got a wary eye on the time, and thank you, by the way, everyone, for your questions. Excellent questions coming through. Okay, the first thing I want to ask you about is, we've talked about youth. What about mature, older workers and the way they fit into this or not? And I know there are great fears here. Again, I hark back to conversations I've had recently with friends of mine and friends of my parents who've lost their jobs over the past few months. Will they be hired back because of their experience and their know-how and their communication skills, or is it a problem for them because they don't have the technical ability? What do you think?
That's a great question. And ironically, I was watching BBC today in the morning, and that was the topic that they were talking about in the UK, and how challenging it is for the elderly to actually seek a job in a time where jobs are tough, and in a time where people are looking for long-term sustainability and new ideas. I think the most important, and this is also a program that we are kind of playing around with in the Dubai Future Academy, is the most important thing is to ensure that the knowledge gap between what's needed in the fourth industrial revolution in the youth and the elderly is shrunk as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And we're fortunate here in the region that many of the elderlies are equipping themselves with the skills of the future. Once you do that, the likelihood of securing a job becomes higher. Make no mistake, this is a challenge everywhere in the world, and we need to ensure that this gap between what the knowledge of the elderly is and what the knowledge of the youth is shrunk to the narrowest possible. This makes the likelihood of continuation of work even much easier. And we're running programs and actually working right now with the Ministry of Community Development, who are mainly focused on different programs for the elderly we're trying to unite with them on adapting and bridging the gaps for future skills that are relevant. Because even though this is a challenge, Alex, the elderly come up with wise experience. And we focus a lot on the youth, but we disregard the fact that the youth come with less experience when it comes to governance, when it comes to negotiation, when it comes to presentation. And our average age of the Dubai Future Foundation is around 25. And I think I'm the only one that's ruining the curve for them. But I think the average is 25, which is pretty young. But we are facing this challenge of ensuring that they have the leading qualities of a leader.
But maybe there's an interesting business, one of the viewers writes there's maybe an excellent business proposition here in reskilling the elderly, an excellent entrepreneurial business in reskilling older generations. Anyway, I'll leave that for now. The work from home model, is it here to stay? Will it be considered the new normal in the post-COVID era? Even once a vaccine is found, what do you think? Will it and should it?
So I think balance is key in life, Alex, and I think it will never go to 100%, nor will it go back to 100% work in the office. I think there will be priorities made because we've realized that efficiencies happen from work from home. I personally, when I went through the lockdown period, I felt from a meeting perspective, it was back to back with almost zero breaks. But at the same time, there's no sense of timing, and you don't interact with the employees, which creates a bit of a challenge. Whereas other employees that are focusing on screen-related work, design, creativity, etc., where they need their own space, can potentially continue working from home. I think the future is a blend in work, the future is a blend in education, and the future is a blend as well in retail. Retail will never go back to normal shopping as it was before. E-commerce has been killing it. When it comes to work, same thing. Productivities have been felt from work. But again, I'll focus on 2 points when it comes to work. The creativity and collaboration, definitely on a decline when it's 100% work, because there's no random catch-ups and random rubbing shoulder and collaboration. This will need to be done, so it cannot be 100% from home. And then mechanisms of assessing performance without it being clocking in, clocking out, because this is I don't think this is the way the fourth industrial revolution is heading. But you need mechanisms of appreciating creativity and work and managing the performance of employees, whether they're working from home or from the office. So the answer is a blend, Alex, and I strongly believe that will be the case. Okay, yeah, good. A couple of final points. Third industrial revolution, and this comes in from a viewer. Third industrial revolution focused on telecoms, computing. Fourth on AI, robotics, blockchain, IoT. Where's the fifth going to look? If we're talking about the future of jobs here, we're really throwing this forward. What is next, Your Excellency? So again, this goes back to our wild thinking, and please, I mean, this is how we take imaginations. I think the future, and this is something that we debate internally, will become that government entities will become platforms. The best way to look at it is imagine a country that looks like an app store, where you simply subscribe to a country, and we're really looking at this thing, and you subscribe to a country, and you have a package. So you have part of that package. It's housing, it's a license, it's internet, it's electricity, and you can subscribe in and out, and it gives you access to this. Subscription can be something that's inclusive and collaborative globally. And the most important thing in this mechanism is a global collaboration on this subscription. One, because market scalability right now is unlike scalability before, where I can open a store next door and assess the market in my neighborhood, which will be the initial growth of my business as it grows through Dubai, the UAE, and hopefully globally. Right now, with the ideas, the day I come with an idea like Kareem or like Souq.com, it's a global idea by default. So, it's a regional one and then global in a matter of a short period of time. So the market is your globe in such a shorter period of time, which means that collaboration between the world when it comes to regulation, when it comes to market scalability, has to be there. If that collaboration happens, then it opens up this idea that there are subscriptions between countries that you sign up for, and it opens up for you a platform of communication. But this needs proper infrastructure all over the world, high-speed internet, alignment, but most importantly, collaboration. So in summary, I see us as a platform for the world as governments if collaboration, inclusivity, and alignment was there to be achieved.
Yep. Look, I could go on for a lot longer, but I am a little bit wary of the time. So a couple of final points, if I may. What do you, the DFF and the work you do, what are you most proud of? What can other nations learn from the UAE, from Dubai, the way you've done things?
So I think one proud moment that had just happened recently is the M061 ventilator that we've went through as an experience of COVID-19. So part of the business unit 4 is our robotics lab. And I cannot be prouder of how the Dubai Future Foundation embraced the whole COVID-19 story. So when it first happened, obviously the first mission was to ensure that everyone is safe and everyone is at home and that we can actually communicate with everyone online and make sure that everyone is all right. So we did that, and we had a town hall online, which was attended by our managing director and chairman of the executive committee, which is His Excellency Mohammed Al-Bagawi. And I'm honored to have the executive committee that I have, which has also the Minister of Artificial Intelligence, His Excellency Amir Al-Ulama, the Minister of Economy, His Excellency Abdullah bin Tog, and the DG of the Executive Office, Eid Al-Atar, and the General Secretary of the Executive Council, Abdullah Al-Basti. So predominantly, amazing support for the Dubai Future Foundation. They were all present in that town hall, and our message to our team was, you need to wear the COVID-19 hat and try to, throughout all the business units that I've mentioned, Alex, come up with different solutions to support the country in this COVID-19 challenge. Business Unit 1 generated and disseminated reports about COVID-19 across different sectors. The Academy sent training courses. And Business Unit 4 in the robotics lab started working on a ventilator. And the proudest moment is when we sent to them a message saying that the moment, if you contribute to saving one life, that is a major accomplishment from a team that actually started the lab a few months back. And what they've done is that they've looked at white papers from all over the world, understood, and they divided those books between them, understood it, and built a ventilator from scratch, which has been reviewed by the Ministry of Health and is a functional ventilator. And the winning component of this experience, Alex, is not actually that the product was successful, but it's the knowledge that has been gained through this experience, which is the largest asset for us here, which means that we need to have a plan on how to disseminate that knowledge and create more local talent that will be imperative for us to grow the innovation ecosystem and the economy in the future for Dubai and the UAE.
And finally, and a question that follows on, and I have to ask it, where are the gaps, do you think? Who do you look to for inspiration in the region or globally?
So I think there are so many learning points throughout the world. Different countries, different nations have done different things. I think I wouldn't point on one of them, but I think the biggest learning that we understood from the Dubai Future Foundation is that you need to be collaborative, and you need to listen to everyone, and you need to communicate. One of the partnerships that we have with the World Economic Forum is the Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution, which we were honored to have His Highness Sheikh Hamdan, the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Dubai Future Foundation, and the chairman of the Executive Council, of course, come and join us at Davos. And I think it was that year that you were there, because we did that signing 2 years ago, Alex. Mm-hmm. And this office or this center became a node of collaboration and discussions with different countries all over the world, discussing different challenges. So I think collaboration with different countries from all over the world is the largest learning, because it can set example and create better plans for everyone.
Got it. Look, I want to stop it there. And this has gone by in a flash. It's been an absolutely fascinating discussion with you. So many thanks to His Excellency Alfan Belhol from the Dubai Future Foundation for sharing your thoughts. I want to thank all the viewers as well for your excellent questions and being so engaged with the polls as well. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself, Your Excellency. And I look forward to seeing Arsenal in the Championship next season or the season after.
I knew you were going to say that again, but looking forward to having you in the Premier League at some point soon, Alex. We're never going to the Championship, my friend. And if that happens, then we don't have future foresight in our foundation.
Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.